Hi folks, it's another video to share some of the threads of recent research activity at Fosway. This is on the theme of AI supercharging the self-study model. So this is the result of some conversations last week at the AI in Learning Symposium event that we ran at Fosway, and also that which in turn drew on the findings of our market assessment study onto roadmap maturity in AI in learning, and also obviously the digital learning 9 grid work from earlier in the year as well. So I wanted to share, I guess, some clear benefits and opportunities, which are pretty well rehearsed and well understood, well discussed. A couple of questions and pauses for thought, perhaps. I'd love to get your views on those, and a couple of potential risks as well, which I can see maybe coming into view on the horizon a little bit further out. So, firstly, the clear benefits of production efficiency from AI. AI as a content-focused industry is seeing a huge amount of efficiency benefit in terms of speed and volume and cost of digital learning design and development, and the ability to create those experiences, and the ability then to optimize those. So perhaps some of the points of benefit there being the volume and variety of media formats and learning modes that are available now at lower cost and at greater speed. The ability to edit and iterate during and through the workflow is, I think, really interesting as well. So you can keep things live and up to date and create more versions of them and iterate them in a way that would have been very, very cumbersome and time consuming in the past. The ability to test and refine, so the sort of build, measure, learn approach really coming to life in a way that we probably haven't seen much in digital learning, simply because it was too hard to manage, I suppose. So suboptimal in terms of many of the workflows and production processes, but also the ability to add a sort of dynamic learning experience through particularly the use of generative AI in e-learning. So there's some clear and obvious benefits. These are well understood. I suppose from my point of view, we're seeing these become much more mainstream and much more part of the furniture than they had been perhaps even a year ago, when they were more opportunity. They bring to life the ability to personalize learning experiences, and there's obviously been a lot of commentary about this as well. Starting to see this, perhaps I think one of the most clear signals in the last 12 months or so has been the number of AI-based role play or AI-based kind of coaching and role play tools that are available on the market. Particularly a lot of interest in simulating skills-based learning, simulating workplace scenario experiences, the ability to gather feedback at scale and pretty much sort of in real time for learners is really interesting, and the data that gathers, clear benefit there. I think there's a really interesting role that conversational UI is having on the industry and non-learner expectations as well. The ability to speak to our synthetic experiences rather than absorb them, consume them, and interact with them. I think that's really bringing some of that personalizing benefit to life in a way that we hadn't seen before. But I think it's also changing how we might think about the data that goes into those experiences. Perhaps a little bit more about that later. And a clear benefits here, and opportunity and potential for skills learning. I think we've seen in digital learning technical skills being very well handled, particularly in software, software development, software engineering, things like software labs, and the ability to really run through a live experience, sort of production experience effectively, and get very, very high fidelity simulation from that, and then very, very strong skills and skills validation data. That is starting the idea that we can use AI and particularly those role play, I think, and conversational tools, simulation tools, to start to develop human skills is really interesting, and there's a lot of investment here, as I suppose we've all seen. So the rehearsal of the famous example of having preparing for a difficult conversation with some kind of AI sparring partner or conversational partner looks like it has an enormous amount of potential that was hard to offer in digital learning in the past. I think one of the things I think that's interesting, though, and this is something that I think we don't have that much data about, or certainly I haven't seen it. So if it's out there and you know of it, please let me know. I think there's some questions about the extent to which we can really genuinely validate these human human skills with synthetic experiences. It's not that they're not valuable and they're not a step forward, but how well does a synthetic experience, me talking to a synthetic conversation partner, prepare me for real life? How does that transfer to skills in the workplace and in my interpersonal relationships, particularly with more than one participant? I think, as you know, as I said, it's not that this can't happen. I think there's a lot of assumption that it will, and I don't think we've yet seen the data. And I wonder about how, you know, synthetic experiences becoming the norm might change, you know, our expectations of workplace behaviour and how well we prepare for it. I don't know. So thinking out loud there and wondering and looking forward to seeing some data emerge on that. I think one of the things that's less clear to me, at least, is what do these synthetic experiences and that mode of feedback do to the manager role? How do you filter in and rely on and use manager perspective in the workplace to supplement some of those skills validation signals? There's a huge amount of value there. How is that gathered? I know there's different systems and different data sources that might gather those signals, but I think we need to be careful of not overlooking the manager role and the manager perspective, and actually, I suppose, the peer perspective as well, so teammates as well as other colleagues in gaining those signals of human skill progress or otherwise. And lastly, I think there's an interesting question around sort of the dearth of shared experiences. Shared experiences are very, very poorly served in digital learning. It's very much, you know, it's that self-study model. So I think these feel like potential gaps in the market, and I'm not seeing a lot of investment yet to support that. So, you know, if there are goals out there in an organization around transformation, perhaps that's, you know, mergers and acquisitions or restructuring, etc., you know, cultural goals that learning teams are often brought into, or behavior change, you know, those shared experiences are really, really crucial for those. How well are they being supported? How are managers being brought into that? And then therefore, you know, what are the potential weaknesses in some of those data signals? So I think there's huge potential, huge benefit, some open questions and some sources of risk here in this sort of supercharging of the self-study model. This shared experience one is the one that bugs me the most. I think we're really potentially missing something significant here, but, you know, I'd be very interested to get your perspective as well. So let me know what you think. Do you recognize this analysis? Do you recognize these themes emerging, or, you know, or should we be barking up a different tree? Let me know what you think.